Hi guys, how are you? So I wanted to jump on and do a really quick live. I hope you all are being safe. If you are in the States, I hope you're enjoying your day off, celebrating or not. I hope you're at peace. So I want to jump on and do a quick live today, because we've been talking about infinite intelligence. We've been talking about the things that begin to fade away. We've been talking about agendas, etc., so on, and how it goes. And there's a lot of issues. And I think open discussion in a world where people are afraid to raise any issues because it's not correct is a disservice. It's a disservice to everybody because there's challenges. And as they are being met, there are extremes. And people are entitled to certain things. But what is happening here is that the distractions come one after another. And there are certain things that even people who are sitting on the fence don't agree with. Because once a value system goes downhill, humanity's way of thinking becomes polluted, and that's the truth. So people have values, and the new distraction is the transgender issue. It's a deep topic, and there's many facets. But again, let's not confuse identity with sexual misconduct. Let's not confuse racist society that tries to pollute the minds and consciousness of people. And I'll take this topic because it's broad spectrum. It's something that I do know about, and I can speak openly and intelligently, but this topic will run down. This topic will run down because, again, it's a moral compass that humanity is distracted by. We do not promote polluting the minds of little children. That has no value. We understand when people transition into a transgender identity that it's a process, and once you know about it, it will not leave you. What society is doing, it is dumbing down the minds of people and creating scenarios that people will never be able to live in harmony with. Whether that's the transgender issue, whether that is the issue of moral exchange, whether that is just being a good person. All these things that are being polluted, they are being polluted because I will equate what the elites are doing to us. We're like a puppy mill. You understand that? Because human beings' function is to produce. And now they are creating things that have no value. Because who you are, if you have moral value, you have a compass in you. Because you can't only blame one gender. There are heterosexuals that are perverse and do many, many disgusting things to one another. So it's a pot and a catch-22, just like it was Black Lives. Just like now it's abortion. Just like now it's being in fear of the air we breathe. There has to be a moral compass within our hearts and our souls. And there has to be people that are able to discuss these things without without being ignorant to what we are fighting against. We are fighting for the right to question, to exist, to understand what we're dealing with. We're here to protect the kids. Adults don't even have it together. A 4-year-old won't either. And trust me, if somebody is going to transition and become a different gender, that's not going away. You have to deal with other issues that are on the table than the issues of creating disgust around everything. Because it's only the human being that makes things disgusting by the warpedness of mind. Just like many who have been sexually assaulted by their parents, or have been victim of pedophilia, as they grow older, they fight that demon to control that urge when they are stepping away from it. That's why history repeats itself, because what happens is it's learned behavior and you give way to it. So when we are speaking about these things, let's talk about them intelligently. I'm not down with a man to have a baby, are you? It doesn't happen biologically. So why is it offensive to say that? Because I'm hurting your feelings? I don't go by a person's sexuality if they are people that are responsible. I'm for the filth being brought to the table and us actually stepping forth and doing something about it, right? I'm for people being able to break cycles and understand. Ignorance is bliss, and we have it throughout society. And we are sometimes put in situations that we face these challenges, and in order to make a change, we have to be able to speak about these things. We have to be able to say a brother or a sister has a right to question, and if they don't agree with something, they have the right to turn around and walk away from it. But, you know, let's not get confused about the moral compass here. Children have a right to be children. Children have a right to grow up. It's hard enough to explore in a way that allows them their childhood. Because what's going to be is going to be. It's going to come out no matter what. But to be open and honest and to really harmonize, then you have to be able to willing to say enough is enough. And society in itself is perverted. We live in a system where they are breaking in children younger and younger, and that's the biggest picture here, the bigger picture here. Not only with this topic, with every topic. There is no more childhood. So what are you being, created for, right? What are you being created for? To be in a mill, human production, when there's so much more? You're a sentient being, and let's talk about that. Let's get into infinite mind. How do you break that? Because these are things that we learn to break in our mindset, and that's what I want to really get into, because what I discussed is the situation. Now I want to get into the adult breaking free of that, because we are in a society now that we have other things to consider as we are taking the next step into a higher level, because this is your earth, right? And the mind is something that you will have to understand, because it's the co-creator with your emotions, and your mind can play a lot of tricks on you. So you want happiness. You want to come to terms with everything that you were traumatized by, and you don't want history to repeat itself. And you are faced with this because now you realize that inside of you, you have divinity, and you do have divinity. But divinity is a responsibility, because you are learning to work with it. What's the point? I'm not looking at my comments. That was appointed me, you fucking talking to you. Oh, I don't even know what's going on here. I hope you guys are being cool. And just for people who are on there, I really don't read the comments to afterwards, and then I do answer back. So I hope everything is cool with you all. I'm talking about moral values now, and how you turn around and you break that cycle. You have to be able to truly mourn what happened to you. And you have to know that every day there is a balance, and every day there is a new way of you introducing goodness to yourself. Most people start out with affirmation. But the same way you think yourself into fear, you think yourself into condemnation, you think yourself into just being one-sided, is the same way you ask for guidance. And it's the same way you extend in your own mindset some sort of positivity. Because you talked yourself into fear for years, for decades. Now you got to get out of it, and you have to start somewhere. But you also have to have a change of heart, and you have to understand we are not here for our sentient rights to be infringed upon. We are here at this point to live on an earth where our birthright is actually in harmony. And people say, oh, it's just impossible. It's not impossible, because if you're spiritual in some sort of way, you believe in something. If you don't like the current system, you have to search for something. And how do you search through it? You search through it through your consciousness, because you yourself every day have a conversation with yourself. And that's the truth. And either you're going to become bitter, or you're going to take the effort to go step by step and know that love does exist. Know that we have to talk about these topics. It's because our children are involved here. And people should not be insulted. And people should not be in fear if they had past traumatic lifestyles that we can't talk intelligently. Of course, you're not all going to agree, but you might learn something from somebody's experience. Whether it's from their insanity or from their, their sanity, right? Either or, because you're going to make an assessment. So why can't we talk about all these things? The psychosis of the mind, you have to know what you're doing. And you could read 1,000 books, and you could try these techniques on people, but they will fail every time if your consciousness within yourself is not right. And what you live in the past is just that, Kim. And what you do for the future is just that too, because you're breaking cycles. So I see that you have a lot to say, and I will actually read that later, and I will consider everything that you have said, because what happens is it's in consideration of other people that we understand what's really wrong with this world. It's not about push and shove, because there's a story behind every door, girlfriend. But we're talking about issues now that affect the children. And we're talking about things now that affect us. And we're not talking about things that happen to people. We're talking about a value system that happens on all levels. So as we discuss one group, we have to discuss humanity in a whole, because humanity does disgusting things to one another, and you're influenced by people that you think are on the high end of the food chain, but you're actually their food. And I don't know no other way to say that. And I don't want to be anybody's food. I want to live in the divine essence, and it really does exist. And you make a lot of mistakes along the way, because you're learning and relearning. When your heart changes, you change. And if people are going to think a certain way of you, what's passing through is passing through. But if you have heart and soul, and if you actually care, you work this every day, and no amount of money that you pay could ever make you feel whole. If we keep conditioning the children, you cannot condition the children. You have to exude in a moral righteousness or a value system, or something that means something through your own consciousness. And when you got love, and you know how to walk this earth, and you know when you have to take a stand, that bullshit that they are feeding you falls away. I'm sorry, there's too many fickle people in this world going down a path that is killing our kind off. We are not a puppy mill. We are not a human mill. We should not make anything or any specific species any kind of mill. And I use the puppy mill because they force young children to give birth, okay? They force a society about what is right when they hurt us. And I know, Janelle, you're referring to Roe and Wade. And even that, there has to be give and take. Because what are we forcing on our children is the stain of not having any knowledge and support. Because when is it a birth control method? A birth control method is not the answer either. What you do responsibly with your body is something that after you make that decision, you don't want to continuously go back to that path. And that's in anything. And I'm not speaking because I have any one particular way, because I myself as a youth had an abortion. And if I talk about it openly and honestly, when you are a teenager, your mind is not in the right place because you don't even know the effects of what you're doing because you want to get rid of the shame. You were never talking about sex the right way, or there's not enough talk, or people that are in poor communities, you know, they have 3 strikes against them and the rich cover it up. You want to get real and talk about spirituality, the mindset? You want to really say that, oh, people are talking from the dark side of the moon? No. You don't know the human psyche. If you were raped and you were forced to give birth, and that was the most detrimental experience for you, and it cracks you for the rest of your life because that's an abomination to you. Let's really talk real. And then to have empathy in all areas. And to say this does count. And what we are doing is we pit each other against one another. That's not the way. So yeah, I stand with certain things. And it does not matter that I am fair and open. Moral consciousness means something in a spiritual path. And when you are morally conscious, you understand the challenges of what can happen, but you address it in a way that has oomph behind it. You can't be afraid of everything. You're so dumbed down that you can't talk about anything without apologizing. You know, you're so afflicted that everything has to be either right or wrong. What about, like, I care for you, right? I care for you. And we have issues here that affect us, and some of them are really scary. And I don't know all the answers, but I know pushing the blame on each other without any real solution is not the answer either. And, you know, there's a story behind every door. So if we are to collectively come together, let's start closing the gap so there don't have to be as many stories and we actually do something, right? That's right. Abortion law was changed because they made it where you could abort day of birth. Yeah, you know, it's really a complicated issue, and let's talk about that. And what do you think happens to some of those full-term babies that are that they say are aborted? Because it's an easy way to say that there's no kid being trafficked or, you know, getting in the wrong hands or being sold. There's a lot of stuff that goes on that people don't want to face. And again, that does not mean I'm against abortion for certain people. It does not mean I'm for it either at this stage of my life. I understand that people could get into circumstances. I am saying that either way we go, what is the right thing? What is the right thing, guys? What is the right thing to teach your children or to do differently in breaking your cycles? We all have to face that because we all are doing things differently. That's why I decided to jump on. Because I see how people turn on one another. Stop turning on one another and let people be who they are. Let people speak their woes. So actually there are some remedies instead of killing one another with our own tongues, right? It really does exist, the consciousness of the mind. And again, these are the things we're remedying. So I don't know what works for you, but I'll give you a few things to start with. Affirmations are very important. You have to start talking yourself up. You've been talking yourself down for years. And in order for any type of divinity to enter you where you could start making conscious choices, you need to start somewhere. Understand that your circumstances, when you are working in conjunction to your mind and your heart, and you're asking for help, but you are not blind to what you could do for your own self, is where you start too. Rome wasn't built in a day. To turn around, everybody does it differently. But the commonality is the rare change of heart that allows you to actually start breaking away from these cycles. It's an individual thing. Stay away from things that are not morally conscious for you. Those things will suck you in. Take responsibility. Each person who takes responsibility, that'll be one less thing to worry about, and slowly things will change. Learn that there is a power and a source greater than you are, and we are participating in a thing called life. And my personal mission is that I will never ever turn my back on the children. I could be fair on all issues. I could listen to many things, even things that I don't agree with. But my passion is for the children. And in order to break the cycles, we actually have to take action. Do something nice for yourself. It's okay. Understand that this is a surrender when you give into the power that's greater than you are. And your consciousness is helping you participate in life, so you don't have to fight so hard for the things that are your natural birthright. Don't go sharing your energy with so many people. Energy gets convoluted sometimes, and not everybody has your good intent. Keep certain things to yourself when you are working at things. And I'm going to tell you, you have to work out things sometimes quietly. And even if you get a little trigger or something is said that, you don't like, or you see something that's coming, but you have to let it be, let it be. Let it be. Because everybody has to learn their lesson. But I would hope that through this transformation, some lessons are already learned, and they can be learned. And as they are learned, you actually are forming a protection. Because one person that gives into love, a true love of their heart, is one person that makes a difference. Use the earth as your friend, not your foe. Use the energy as your friend, not your foe. Don't worry about what people have or they don't have. If people love you, let them work through their wounds, because they're going to love you no matter what, and they're going to be there for you. Don't get so disconnected that you cloud your judgment of what's really going on. Addictions are all over the place in many formats. These things are addictions in the hearts of people that have no other way of being. We're changing that. We can only do it ourselves. And as we do it ourselves, we actually could boost the energy of this climate. Don't lie about what really is happening. You can't lie when you're actually transforming. You see it, you see through it. That's when you have to learn how to walk and what you want to walk with and how you can walk with that. Trust me, it's a process. It's wonderful though, and no one could take that away from you. I'll leave you all with that to think about. I stand with my people that are bringing up the issues. See, there's a difference between responsibility and dealing with things than condoning things that brainwash people, especially the kids. You see, you can't blame the kids. You have to blame you. You can't really. I don't want to use the word blame. Excuse me, my nose is itching. But it is a blame, because I'm blaming myself if I don't take action and speak about the very things that are important. We have to blame ourselves once we transform or we step into it. And that's where we're at. Peace out. And be responsible, because that's right. Divinity is responsibility. Our actions is responsibility. Speaking up is our responsibility. Understanding the many forms of addiction is our responsibility. Rocking it with a heart that changes allows you to lead a better way. I kid you not, it exists. Ciao.